Welcome to the Goal Podcast, news and commentary from Gun Owners Action League, your leading voice for the Massachusetts gun owner.
I'm Jeff, across the table from Garrett. This is an off-schedule special release. So, off our normal schedule, we all know the latest legislation known as H.4885 was released by committee the afternoon of Wednesday, July 17th. Even the language of the bill has changed since then. Yet again before Thursday, where both the House and Senate scheduled formal session and proceeded to vote in the affirmative on the bill, the House voting 124 to 33 and the Senate voting 35 to 5 in favor of the legislation. So the bill as it sits now is how they call it enacted and is pending signature by Governor Maura Healey. We are planning to do a deep dive and to go into greater detail in the near future as further analysis is done, but we're here to gather initial reactions and look at some of the broad strokes with the information as it's currently understood.
Yeah, I'm sure Maura Healey will be hesitant to sign it when it shows up on her desk.
Well, the options for her will be either a full-scale veto, which I doubt.
That's not happening.
A full-scale veto, the governor does have the option for a line item veto where they can say, hey, this line has to come out, that line has to come out.
There's a lot of money mandates here, and she has the ability to veto that stuff.
Or,
she's going to.
Probably the most likely is just...
my money is on her doing a signing ceremony with orange shirts all around and 6 different pens and so forth. And, sure. So this is, for better or worse, actually worse, this is to be a done deal probably in the next couple of days, maybe even by the time people get a chance to listen to this. But be assured that Goal has been preparing for this day, paying attention to the bill as it progressed. We've been talking to legislatures, we've been talking to legal authorities, and we're going to, I'm sure, have more to say on that in the coming days and episodes.
Yep. Official text of the bill, so if you want to read all 116 pages of it, that the link is available on the Goal website, www.goal.org. There is a separate document for just covering all the definitions and how the definitions are changing. Yep. There's an initial summary of H.4885 by section, and there's an initial summary of 4885 by subject matter. So if you are wanting to go through the entire bill to get a summary of the whole thing, I would recommend going by the section. If you are specifically passionate about one subject or another, you can just jump to the summary by subject matter and look for those things that you're looking for. But it is a sweeping omnibus overhaul of the entirety of Massachusetts gun law.
It's everything from definitions to so-called assault-style weapons bans to so-called ghost guns to... There's no area of Massachusetts gun law that this does not touch. So joining us this evening, we do have the man himself. Without further ado, let's get to him. Jim Wallace, Executive Director, Gun Owners Action League. Thanks for taking time on a Saturday night to join us.
I quit.
Sorry.
No, you don't. You tried that
microphone's on. You're breaking up a little bit.
That's right. You're still muted. Sorry, didn't catch that.
Sorry, I had a little trouble hearing you. But, it's what a whirlwind this has been.
Yeah.
Not just the last few, whatever week or whatever days, but it's been almost a year and a half, hasn't it? Since last February.
Yeah.
When they started to deal with this stuff or not deal with it. It's been something else. A couple of things. When they dropped this bill Wednesday afternoon, Mike and I went to work on it, and we spent maybe 5-6 hours trying to dissect it. And then when we got up, it was actually at night, Mike, was checking things because he had just got off another interview and found out that there had been 5 or 6 more editions filed.
Oh, yeah.
So by 10 o'clock at night, everything we had done was pretty much no good.
Yeah.
So the next morning almost had to start from scratch. But
well, interestingly, one of the changes they had to make was they tried to say it was endorsed by someone that didn't endorse the bill.
Yeah. So a couple of names got taken off the bill.
Yeah. Yeah, the Republicans.
Yeah.
They had put Joe McKenna's name on what they call the jacket. He was not very happy about that. So, you know, the sad thing is, if we could have pulled just one Democrat, this would not be happening because the jacket wouldn't have been signed by 4 people.
Wouldn't have had enough. It wouldn't have had enough people saying to recommend it out of committee.
Right.
Yikes.
Right. So, but here we go. You know, the reason, and, you know, there might be some people questioning, well, why wasn't Jim and Mike in the State House? Why? We knew at that point it was a done deal because we had done so much work, and I mean we, the 2A community, had done so much work in the last year that the success in actually beating them down resulted in them going dark because they knew once they released the language, it could not withstand the light of day, period.
That's right.
And if the members of the House and Senate actually understood what they were doing, I don't think they would have voted for it because they really didn't. Now, ask any legislator that voted for this thing and ask them, hey, do you know you just voted to allow people to use their welfare EBT cards to buy ammunition? I'll bet you the answer will be no. Matter of fact, I stopped at a gun shop today to just talk to folks and answer questions. And I suggested, well, you should start carrying diapers and baby formula so they can just come in, get all that stuff and some ammo, you know. But
it's a one-stop shopping.
The other scary part about that, which I'm sure they didn't consider because they didn't vet it with us, it's going to create a massive black market ammo sales.
Huge.
But that's right up there with the piece that, you know, of course, anybody who has a non-resident temporary license, you can't buy guns or ammo or anything like that in the state of Massachusetts. Now, they put something in this bill that says, yeah, but if you do, you got to register it.
Right. Great. Genius.
Yeah. Hello.
Yikes.
It's insane. So it took us 2 days, but last night, I don't know, about 5, 6 o'clock. So we have 2 different summaries up now. One is by section of the bill.
Yep.
And one is by subject matter. And the subject matter is the easiest one for the members to look through.
Yeah.
Because they can look to assault weapons, they can look to whatever prohibited places and just automatically know. And that should be in alphabetical order, if I remember by elementary school training. So it should be in alphabetical order by subject matter.
If not, Control F and search it out. Yeah.
That's right. And it's continually being updated. Matter of fact, 5 minutes ago, I updated it with the exemptions for registration because that's one of the questions we were getting. And they did exempt pre-1968 guns. So, because most of those didn't have serial numbers.
Right.
And you're not going to etch a new serial number, you know, on a collectible. Sorry, not going to happen.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's an interesting piece.
Yikes. All right. So the bill is like Jeff said earlier, I mean, anybody who listens to this podcast is going to have the broad strokes anyway, but it's H.4885. It's 116 pages. Is there anything out of the 116 pages is there any area of gun law in Massachusetts that it doesn't touch?
Whew. Well, I would say that even some of the sections that did not have substantial change, they had technical changes because they don't use the word. This is one thing I think they listened to. They got rid of the use of the word weapon for a generic term.
Yeah.
And now they use firearm as a generic term. So they had to replace that in every section of law. That
everywhere. Yeah.
So there's a ton of technical. And if you see the subject matter summary at the bottom, you'll just see this huge list of technical changes that really don't amount to anything, but there's enough that we have to pay attention to. So we're going to, the other thing too is we're getting tons of questions, and I would please urge everyone, before you start emailing us and texting us and whatever, please read the summary first, because most of your questions are going to be answered right in that summary.
That's the purpose of having a summary. Yeah.
And it's in plain language. It's bullet pointed. we don't use legal jargonese, so you don't have to speak Latin or read Latin to read the summary.
Yeah.
But also the fact that this is just an initial summary. In 2 days, we ripped through it, both Mike and I and others. The staff was there in the war room. You saw the pictures. But we wanted to get the biggest chunks of meat out first.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're going to start getting into the minutia of things. For instance, the assault weapon stuff, assault style firearms. There's 3 grandfather dates in that now.
Yes.
So there's a September 13th, 1994. There's a July 16th, 2016, and there's an August 1st, 2024. Now, I don't know why they did this, but the old pre-ban date of September 1994 now only applies to large capacity magazines, not the actual gun. So
wow. Yeah.
I have no idea why they did that.
So they removed the reference for firearms for the federal assault weapons ban.
Right. So and again, we have to get into the minutia of this, but it appears that anything prior to the Healy rogue move in 16 is pretty much grandfathered. But then and those dates are in the definition section of assault style firearms. Then you move to the other law, which is the assault style firearm law, which is 131M.
Yeah.
And that uses the August 1st, 2024 date. So not really sure why they use 2 different dates, because are they actually grandfathering everything prior to that date?
Yeah.
Or the 16 date? So maybe what it means is like, remember the movie Animal House? We're putting you on double secret probation. So we just can't tell you why you're on probation, but you're on probation. And by the way, the post I made on Facebook earlier today, support your local gun shops where you can. Facebook ripped the post down and put us on a restriction.
Oh, so, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah. So good luck with that.
Jesus.
So there's all those little things that we have to look through and now get into the nitty gritty of the details of it. Does it really matter in the short term? No, but I know people are extremely anxious about this, and they should be.
Well, yeah.
They basically reverted almost back to the original House version. It's not quite as bad, but I would equate it as you just got sentenced to death by hanging, but the court gave you a new rope.
Yeah, it is just as bad as the House. I mean, so they backed off of the sensitive places a little bit, but the new language, like the assault style or whatever the hell they're calling it now, like the assault weapon stuff, because of the features test, it's not an explicit one feature test, but it's, it might as well be because of their definitions.
Yeah. Well, they kept it as a 2-feature test. However, they added a bunch of additional features. Yeah. And it really points to, and people are looking at this as a de facto semi-automatic rifle ban.
Yeah. Because that's kind of what it looks like.
Don't forget hunting shotguns that are semi-automatic.
That's right.
Because I've never had a shotgun that didn't have a forearm or a quote barrel shroud.
That's right.
And
Mike Harris, the barrel. Yeah.
We need to all take our shrouds off and just get oven mitts, and we'll be okay.
Yikes! Man.
Yeah. So there's an awful lot of minutia that has to go through. Now, the other thing is everybody's screaming for a court case, and I get it. Those who aren't members, don't follow us, are screaming that we're not doing anything. We've never done anything about this bill. And, it not only upsets Gold, but the actual members who've been working their tails off for a year. But anyway.
Yeah. Well, you're always going to have, I'm sorry, Jim, but you're always going to have the people on the sidelines that don't participate, that don't do the research, that don't read the information, and just like to shout the things from the rafters to hear themselves speak.
I get it all the time. Like, I will donate to Goal when they get a win, or when this is shot down, I'll send Goal a check. It's like,
well, it's like my fat butt sitting on the couch watching Brady throw an interception, going, "I could have made that throw." Yeah, right. Good luck. No. Sorry. And then when I explained to some folks of how expensive it is to file a federal case, well, I got a cousin that's an attorney.
Oh.
No.
Yeah.
No, that ain't gonna work.
Grandpa's probate attorney. Anyway, sorry.
The divorce attorney that lost you everything.
Yeah.
So here's the deal. We have had, and if you remember and you're paying attention, you already know this, we have had a national law firm waiting in the wings for months.
Right.
They probably next week we will sign what's called an engagement letter, which formally gets things going. It is the same lawyer that actually initiated or helped initiate Bruin. So these guys know what they're doing. So what's going to happen first? This isn't going to happen tomorrow. What's going to have to happen first, and we've mentioned this on podcasts earlier, this bill is so massive and so egregious, federal court is not going to take this whole thing out. They're just not.
No. It's an omnibus bill.
No. There's been people screaming for an injunction. Successful injunctions are very rare. It has to be imminent harm. And I mean somebody's going to get killed. And even that, the chances of us getting in a successful injunction in the First Circuit federal court.
Yeah. Yeah, good luck with that. Even on a panel, yeah.
I don't see that happening. So
and you're not going to get it against the entire scope of the bill. You can't just say, like, I want an injunction against all of Massachusetts law.
We're just going to turn off 4885. No, even if they took the case, that's not going to happen.
Yep. We want the court to roll up to the State House with one of those old wrecking balls. Remember those big things on the crane?
Oh, yeah. Swing away.
But before you do that, I want the 24-karat gold leaf on the dome. So here's the deal. We're going to have to, a couple things here.
Yeah.
Starting probably Tuesday, we are going to sit down and tear this thing into sections that we can put together that will be viable for a case. Now, I know this isn't going to go over well with our members. When we're doing that, we have to also consider what's already in the federal court pipelines across the country.
Yes.
Now, there are already 4 or 5 assault weapon cases from California, Illinois, Maryland, New Jersey, who knows. But those cases had made it up to SCOTUS, and after Bruin was set back down to be reheard under Bruin. And those lower courts have been dragging their feet and refusing to rehear it simply because they're trying to wait out SCOTUS, hoping they'll win something, and the 2A friendly ones will die in an accident somewhere.
Right.
So, well, they were on their way to a Hillary Clinton party. So
There was a bus crash. Yeah.
Yeah, in reverse. That bus backed up. But anyway, so we need to look at all of those things. The difference maybe with this assault weapons one is because it's almost a pure semi-auto ban.
Right, because of the
Not
shroud
sure
thing,
about
right?
Right, not sure about handguns, but pretty much every semi-automatic handgun's barrel is shrouded.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So that's something we're going to have to look at and discuss with the law firm. So we're going to have to go piece by piece, and we're going to have to get. Now, here's the other thing. This could literally take 5 or 6 different court actions.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to break it into pieces. Now, I don't know if we're going to be successful in doing this, but what we've been trying to do is talk to the other national groups and piece this out. Hey, you guys take this part. We'll take that part. You guys take that part. And that way we're attacking it all, but from different angles. Now, in the end, when it gets to SCOTUS, if it gets there, they may put all that stuff together anyway.
Yeah.
But it gives each group a different way of attacking it. And that way, not one group is spending $1 million for every.
Yeah.
And that's
to handle things strategically.
Yeah. And that's arguably a matter of fiscal responsibility with membership's money to use it as efficiently and wisely as possible.
Well, we can empty out the coffers trying to fight an assault weapons ban that's already being fought, or
Yeah.
So are we in contact with national groups?
Well, we are in contact with Second Amendment Foundation. Matter of fact, I have a call with Adam Kraut either today or probably Monday. Certainly the NRA is going to be involved. It better be. I'm on the board of directors. So they're going to be involved. Well, I guess we should say if they survive the court battle that's going on now, but that's a whole different story.
Yeah.
There's a lot of moving parts here. And this isn't easy, but people have to be patient.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
One of the things you need to do, all of those people that were out there fighting for over a year, you need to look at all those people who sat on the sidelines. All those people who said, stop this and just file a lawsuit. Well, two things. Number one, you sat on the sidelines. You let this happen. Goal and its supporters certainly did not. We were in the trenches from day one. Number two, if you were one of those people that said, stop all this fighting and just file a lawsuit, it is time to get your checkbooks out. And it better be a golf check.
Lawyers ain't
because
cheap.
It's going to be incredibly expensive. Each case will be $500,000 to $1 million to get to the Supreme Court. And Garrett, what happens when we get to the Supreme Court?
Well, they may decide not even to take it.
They can choose not to even hear it.
Yeah.
Because that's going to take 2 years, year and a half, 2 years.
At least.
To get there. So all of those people that wouldn't get involved in the fight who just said court case, look at them when you have to live with this for 2 years. Because that's what's going to happen. You're going to have to live on to these laws until we can get them challenged in the United States Supreme Court. It's not going to happen in the state court. They'll support anything that Moore signs.
Yeah.
So thanks to Charlie Baker, who had an historic opportunity to replace 5 of the 7 justices in the Massachusetts High Court, and all of them were anti-2A.
Yeah.
Every single one of them. So a lot of work to be done yet. We're trying and we're working as fast as we can, but also as accurately as we can.
Efficiently too, yeah.
Anybody can be the first. Anybody can jump out there with garbage information. As a matter of fact, there's so much misinformation out there already. I don't even know if we can try to backtrack a lot of it. We're just going to keep putting out what we're putting out because people are already convinced this thing's already been signed into law. It takes effect already. There's a lot of detail in this stuff, and that's why we want to be as factual as possible. And even though we're working fast, we're also working very deliberately. Is that a good term?
Yes.
So check the summaries that we have up. I literally just updated one 5 minutes before because we will, if you check the summary document, we will have the date it was amended and also a rough time. So I just put an amendment up there because somebody asked about, well, what are the exemptions of registration? So I said, yep, gosh, we didn't put that up. We were so concerned about the bad stuff. So we put it up. And they did include in the exemptions pre-1968 stuff.
Good.
So that's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
So the message here is you go to goal.org. That is the clearinghouse for information. Don't read documents that you see on NES. Don't read documents from arf.com. None of that stuff.
Well, hey, if you see something,
goal.org and find the summaries there because they're being constantly updated.
Yep, if you see something that's concerning to you, it's worth taking the time to verify. Take 10 minutes and say, all right, let me pull the thing up and let me see what's written about it. And then, hey, if you have that question, that's when you email that specific question. Hey, I don't see this in the summary. But
so that's the other thing, Jeff, is that starting a couple hours ago, specifically Angie and Kerry, but others too, they are gathering questions that we're getting, whether it's email, Facebook posts, messaging, texts. So they're gathering those questions so that we can develop a common Q&A.
Yeah, an FAQ.
And we'll start working on that. Yeah.
No, it's good. It's good that you're working so efficiently because, I mean, listen, you guys can spend the next, 3 weeks just fielding the same question over and over again. And that's not an efficient use of time. So, people people listening, I guess the message that I would say is, like Jeff said earlier, read the summary. Read the summary, read the information that Goal's putting out, but you have to realize that every phone call that you make to the office is time that people aren't looking at this bill. It's time answering questions. So please make sure, that you're looking at those resources and then ask the questions.
I got to say, when we were in the war room there Thursday, I literally took a staffer's cell phone away from them. I won't say which one, but I took a cell phone away from them. So, and then the rest of them to put it in their pocket or something. I was like, yeah, got the hint there. So, and that's an interesting thing. If people actually saw what happens in that war room, we have pretty serious debates.
Absolutely.
Sure. Mike went to law school. I went to basic training. John's the trainer. Angie's, kind of acting like the aunt that just wants to smack us.
Angie's Angie.
Angie's Angie. And,
she's the cat herder.
Like, well, how can I help? So, but it's critical to work fast but deliberately, and that's what we're doing. So we will get out as much information as we possibly can, and once it's signed, that's the other thing too. People need to realize the House and Senate version that was voted through did not have an emergency preamble. Now, what's that?
Yeah.
Emergency preamble means the bill takes effect pretty much the minute the governor puts her pen to it. Normally, without that, a bill takes effect 90 days later, unless, like in this case, at the end of the bill, there's a lot of sections with dates. This section won't take effect for 18 months. This section won't take effect for 6 months. This section won't ever take effect because we're not going to fund it.
Yeah, right.
Now, there is the opportunity for the governor to put in an emergency preamble. It's rare, but she has the opportunity to do that. Doubt she'll do it. Doubt she even knows what it is. But so keep in mind, there's a lot to go here. I know the gun shops are going crazy right now.
Oh, yeah.
Because everybody's buying everything. But that's the other thing is we have to figure out those grandfathering dates.
Yeah, people. I hate to be fatalist, and I hate to be a downer and everything, but all the guns that are being panic bought today could be illegal in 3 weeks. We don't know
that's
yet.
Literally what happened with the Healy notice, because nobody knew it took effect a day ago.
Yeah, right. So they were buying the day after.
Yeah. So, me included, by the way. But not to be reckless, because we've at Goal have never talked like this publicly. First time in my life, first time in my career for Goal, I'm in the position of do what you do to do whatever you think you need to do to keep your family safe. Period. I told the legislature when we testified before Chairman Day's BS hearing in the State House, I told them I have spent my entire career working with this building until I had to work with you. And you lied to us. You deceived us. You even lied and deceived to your own colleagues. I told them right there in open meeting, You pass this or anything like it, we're tapping out. And they looked at me and says, what do you mean? And I said, just what I said. I have told everybody, we've trained people on the law. We've told people comply as best as you can. I'm done with that. Nope, I'm done.
It's time to really decide what your priorities are, individually. Individually.
600,000 plus of us. We can't make this happen. So
we can get it done.
Is there any particular, obviously the entirety of the bill is horrifyingly egregious. Is there anything that stands out to you individually as just jaw on the floor? I can't believe they actually put this on paper.
Section 1 through 116.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. Yeah.
But Jeff, that question I got continually from some people in the State House when this thing was in conference committee. Jim, You need to give us your priorities of what's the worst so we can try to pull them out. And as I said on a video I did just recently, no, if you were serious about actually working together, I did this my entire career. Throw Michael Day out, get some people at the table that actually want to solve the problems, and I'm more than happy to. But I am not going to try to, pick the worst of the worst in what is actually the worst attack on civil rights in modern U.S. history, period.
Yeah, and they absolutely tried to paint this catch-22, I think, for Gun Owners Action League of if you have that input, then they say, well, you were at the table, and therefore they try to imply that you've condoned the things that they have put out.
Right. You pick the worst things, but everything else you agreed with.
But if you don't sit at the table and they say, well, hey, you could have, should have, whatever. But everything that I'm reading in this bill, all the sections, all the subject matter, all the materials, Goal has either filed legislation, mailed in guidance. Like, we've had language in front of them before that says, hey, if you want to deal with people manufacturing firearms, or if you want to deal with this, or if you want to deal with that, here's how you do it. So you target the problems and not the people who aren't the problem.
Yeah,
here's how you actually do it
like
the right way.
It's not like they don't know what our position is. They've
Exactly.
had
Well, the
plenty of
interesting thing
opportunity.
is, like, one of those complaints came from a senator. And I was like, you're kidding, right? You don't know where we stand? So I did my due diligence as, Goal. So the next morning I called, and I'll name names here. I called Carlos Gonzalez, Chair of Public Safety, who's on the conference committee. And he and I get along very well, very cordial. And hey, Carlos, how you doing? He goes, hey, Jim, what's going on? And I said, hey, I just want to let you know, we're hearing secondhand that the conferees are upset because we're not giving input on our stance on the bill. And Carlos laughed and said, oh, no, your stance is pretty darn clear. Your members have made everything very clear. I don't know who the hell told you that, but yeah.
We know where you stand.
Even in the meeting, he goes, Michael Day said, nope, Goal's made their stance pretty damn clear. We don't need to go to them for anything. So, it's just, folks, this fight ain't over, man. Now it's time to get mean. Now it's time to get mean.
There you go.
I will say, we'll announce it here for the first time. As we are going to have to do some serious fundraising, because this is big money. This isn't a $20 roast beef dinner. September 12th, Thursday night at the Cyprian Keys. We've had several events there. This is going to be a high-end fundraising dinner, and the tickets are going to be $200 a piece. We will do other events where most people can come, but we need to raise big money and fast.
Lawyers are not cheap.
No, that's the only people that are going to be happy about this, is lawyers. So that'll be our first event. It'll be fun. The whole staff will be there. I don't know if I can get the attorney up there, but that would be cool.
Yeah.
He actually lives in Alabama, so it's not just right down the street. But that's our first step. And I got to say this too, guys. Throughout this whole fight, we have not really been hammering people for money. You don't see donate.
Right.
We have a donate button up, and we've run a couple of raffles. People have been tremendously generous already. But now it's time to push that big red button, and all those people sitting on their hands, it's time to write checks. So
yeah, now's the time. I mean, it's not mercenary. It's not any of those things. If people really want to fight this fight, they're going to have to not only get involved, they're going to have to contribute. That's just it. I mean, it's beyond time to step up.
I mean, every club should start doing fundraisers on their own to raise money for this fight. Because it's not like it's going in my pocket or your pocket. Even though I keep requesting that Goal helicopter with miniguns, you guys just want to prove it. Maybe I can get Wayne LaPierre to... No, sorry.
Yeah.
So anyway, the training too, I know you're probably going to talk to John Green.
Yeah.
The training requirements, because we have not seen, they haven't even started working on it. The state police have to develop a curriculum. Good luck with that.
Right. That's all the law says. It doesn't say, well, I mean, there's a couple of particulars, but more or less it says that the state police have to promulgate this. So we really have no idea at this point what it looks like.
There's actually a lot of particulars already in the summary, and I'll say this right now. There's not an instructor in the state that's qualified to do it. So anyway, folks, I know it's tough, believe me, but please be patient. We're working as fast and as deliberately as we possibly can to get your information. Don't do anything drastic right now. Don't start throwing your guns in the river. Matter of fact, if you want to get rid of them, bring them by. We'll give you an address. We'll take care of them.
I had a boating accident.
But there is so much in here that we really need to do a deep dive in, and we will very soon. So,
all right.
I just want to thank everybody for their support, for their rally, all those folks that worked their tail off in the last year. You were heard. Trust me, you were heard. That's why they had to go dark on this. They knew that if there was any time to have this language vetted, they would have got trashed. And that's why they did it in secret. And they voted on it in less than 12 hours?
Yeah. There were two motions that were made on the Senate floor. One to delay the bill long enough for them to actually read it. That motion was denied, and then there was another motion to have the bill read, and that was denied. And then
after that, the thing that got my teeth is after that happened, Cynthia Cream actually stood up in the Senate chamber and said, "Well, thank you very much for allowing me to finally get to my point." You know, it was so condescending and disgusting to listen to. She's like, "I'd like to thank the minority leader for, finally allowing me to
How dare you use the legislative process to delay my speech?"
Right.
Yeah. But this was an active effort to keep this as hidden as possible to the very, very, very last second, and then slam it through as fast as possible before anybody could have a chance to.
That's what they tried to do last July before the people spoke up. So this is where we are, Jim. I want to let you get back to your Saturday. Thank you very much for taking the time with us. We do want to do
Saturday's got to include a bourbon and some more deep dive on this thing. So.
There you go. Get you some Four Roses and Diet Coke. There you go.
Yeah.
So thank you for taking the time. We're going to do a deep dive at a later date. Right now, this is just kind of initial reaction. So thank you very much. Thanks again for all that you guys are doing. You guys, the staff, people at the office burning the midnight oil. We really do appreciate it.
Yeah, we can't do this without the support that we're getting. Trust me. So, and that includes the families of the staff.
Amen. Amen.
So,
all right.
All right, guys. Thanks.
Thanks very much. Talk soon. All right, so that was Jim. Good to have him on. Again, like we said in the beginning, we're going to have a deeper dive. This is just initial reactions. We're talking about the immediate impact of the bill, what we're doing right now. We just needed to get the word out to folks in the community.
We're less than 72 hours into a several year battle.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Yep, this is going to be ongoing.
There's important to be, tactical and decisive, and I mean, in my heart of hearts, it's like, yes, you want to just light the bill on fire and scream from the rooftops and go no.
Yeah, but there's a way to do this. So we're gonna take a quick break. When we come back, don't touch that dial. We're going to have John Green, Goals Director of Education and Training, to talk about some of the implications of what he's seen so far. He's part of the war room. Obviously, he's been doing this for 900 years, and he's the guy that teaches gun law to the cops. So it's good to have his input. So without further ado. All right, so we're here with John Green, Goals Director of Education and Training. He's joining us after an arduous day in the classroom. John, I want to thank you for taking time on your Saturday to join us with some initial reactions to this nonsense out of the State House. How are things going?
As you can imagine, like everybody else on the goal board and the goal staff, we're extremely busy. We're disappointed in our legislators. We're also very proud of a handful of state reps and state senators that voted no to this. And before we get into the training aspect of the bill, I do want to give a personal shout out to my state senator, Peter Durant, who spoke, eloquently and articulately on the fact that this bill does nothing to reduce crime. It just handicaps the person trying to be lawful. Garrett, Jeff, I can't tell you how many goal members and friends have called me, so concerned, so worried about, they don't want to be a criminal. They've led, honest and lawful lives. And this bill, I just don't know how people that have been Massachusetts firearm owners, for 6 or 7 years can possibly comply with a lot of this stuff. And I know Jim, I don't want to cut into Jim's thunder. I know that he's talked about some of the assault style firearms and what's grandfathered and what's not. But, my understanding of this bill is, boy, we're in a world of hurt. We're in a world of hurt. This was unfair, if nothing else. And before we get into the training, once again, talking with a lot of individuals from law enforcement that actually met with members that sponsored this bill, namely Representative Mike Day, the one common denominator that everybody that I've spoken with from the state, whether it be law enforcement or Department of Mental Health or Public Health, they all described him as what an arrogant guy. What an arrogant guy. And I think that's important for folks that, have never met the man or have never watched him on video to realize we've got an individual that's just arrogant, doesn't bother to learn what laws are already on the books. And that's a real problem in leadership today.
Well, that's probably the kindest words that I think could possibly be said.
Yeah,
well,
so at least for public consumption.
I promised the board I'd work on my salty language.
No, you're absolutely right in that characterization, John. It's like speaking with him at the so-called listening tours and listening to his speeches with the media and in the the pulpit at the State House and so forth. He comes across very strongly as a person who just doesn't need to study the material because he just knows better. He's got his convictions, and that's where he comes from, and he just knows. So who needs to bother with any of the facts?
Yeah, and imagine someone who wouldn't even put in the time. The whole pitch of the bill is to increase public safety, and public safety means so little that you wouldn't even bother to, take to heart the information that's being given to you by industry experts, by subject matter experts, and just saying, I'm going to do whatever I feel like will give my name the best recognition for my purposes.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've hit on the head, Jeff, but you normally do. You usually do. All right, gentlemen. So we're here to talk about training. So I'm looking at Section 74 of the bill. Hopefully our listeners have taken a look at the summary that's still a work in motion to look at the words that the staff has put down for folks. So with that said, Section 74 is all training. It limits hunter education certificates to an FID card only. Currently, Massachusetts, a Massachusetts-administered hunter education program statutorily meets the requirements for an individual to apply for an LTC or an FID card. Okay, so that in itself is going to cause problems. Being a hunter, I know we've talked a little bit on the Great Goal podcast about our hunting pursuits. Right?
Yeah.
Jeff, one bit when I podcast, and I can't wait for that day. So I look at that. What about the folks that want to own a handgun, not for recreation, not for protection, but for hunting species where we can lawfully use a handgun to hunt Massachusetts wildlife, right? Raccoon hunting, coyote hunting with a pistol. I believe we can hunt bear with a handgun in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
So that's going to have a negative effect on hunter education and those folks that are trying to take a hunter ed course for purposes of hunting specifically with a handgun. Okay, next, it looks like it exempts those who hold an LTC or FID card prior to August 1st, 2024 for renewals. Okay, so there is some exemptions there, similar to the exemption in current law that states, listen, if you held a card or a license on or before June 1st of 1998, you weren't required to take another gun safety course, or you weren't required to take a gun safety course in order to apply for a license after that date. Now we get into the requirements set forth towards the colonel of the state police. So the colonel of the state police doesn't do any of this stuff, right? He or she is going to mandate to the lieutenant, in this case, probably Rich Ridlin, who currently oversees all of our approved BFS courses and approved instructors. This is absolutely going to fall on Rich Ridlin's lap. and Kristen Ryan's lap. And I can tell you, I work with those folks in other projects, the suicide awareness through the Governor's Challenge Council. I really like these two folks, right? I've never heard a bad word said about either one. Granted, Rich comes from a law enforcement background. He's the lead negotiator for hostage in Massachusetts. He's a really great guy. He doesn't see the hunting aspect. He doesn't see the recreational and the competitive aspect of firearms ownership as well and clearly as, let's say, the three of us do. But Rich is a gun guy, loves his ability to shoot, loves the Second Amendment. He and I have had lots of discussions on the live fire component. He wants the live fire component, and I understand that, but I've gotten him to understand that, hey, listen, we agree that live fire is important, but this is a Second Amendment civil right. The state has no business. I don't believe that they have the legal authority to mandate that. We'll see that in the courts, I'm sure. But he agrees, yes, seeing the clubs requiring a live fire qualification for new members, that's a great thing. And he's always complimented Goal on our public statements with regard to that. So with that said, they don't have the bandwidth. We know that the state police doesn't have the bandwidth. They don't have the funding for all of these new curriculum requirements. And these curriculum requirements do currently include injury prevention, whatever that means, right? Suicide prevention. Well, we've already been covering the suicide prevention. The accolades we've received from the work set forth by the Governor's Challenge Council to reduce suicide among veterans and their families and all folks, is just amazing to me. So here we go. We're doing this already, and Goal has been involved with Walk the Talk America and National Shooting Sports Foundation. We're already 10 years into this, folks. We've been doing it for that long, but now we have a government mandate. Disengagement tactics. What is a disengagement tactic? Right? I have an idea. I'm being a little bit flip, but most importantly, guys, I've looked at the definition section in H.4885. I can't see any definitions for injury prevention or disengagement tactics. So here I am. I'm a guy that just wants to get a 357 revolver so that I can do some hunting of lawful species in the Commonwealth, and I have to take a class on disengagement tactics. What does this do to the cost? What does this do to the time? Now, let's talk about live fire, okay? We know our opinions on live fire. Where does the state doesn't have any state operated ranges that I'm aware of. We had a couple of county operated ranges. I don't believe in my 25 years that we have an active county or state range. So where's this live fire component supposed to take place? We know the commercial ranges are probably saying, hey, we can help out for that, only raising the cost of exercising our Second Amendment civil rights further for those that can't already afford what the requirements are. Moving on down the line, completion of a written exam. Well, I've got a feeling that we've got some good folks, that the good folks at State Police, they're going to work with Goal and active clubs to come up with a written exam. I can only hope that. But now, is that written exam going to be offered in how many different languages?
That's a good point.
These are things we have to think about, right? How many different languages is the state prepared to put forth on that written exam? It states that the colonel shall create this written exam and establish minimum requirements to pass. Okay, so if we don't test well, right, what happens then? Right? Is there an option for the instructor to say, listen, they didn't test well, they don't take the written test well, but their handling of the firearm was where it should be, and their accuracy requirements were also where there should be. With the requirement for live fire, who supplies the gun? Who supplies the ammunition? All good questions, gents. All
yeah.
Questions.
And a question that I think follows up on that is, who carries the liability for, do these clubs now have to carry additional liability insurance to carry out state training?
Well, that's a question that only the attorneys and the insurance companies can offer, Jeff. But I bet you if the insurance companies can make a few more dollars, guess what? They're going to make a few more dollars.
I'd be happy to.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. We have the licensing authority must confirm with the state that a certificate has been issued prior to processing a license application. That's already required by law. A lot of people don't know that, but technically under 131P or the accompanying regulations, the issuing authority must confirm with Kristen Ryan that a certificate has been issued properly, i.e. the instructor supplied the state police with a course roster naming that individual's name and birth date. So that's not a big change that I can see. The big change is that I believe that the state will now issue the certificate. So what I'm envisioning is Jeff Strider and Garrett Holcomb submit a course roster to Kristen Ryan. Kristen Ryan supplies that roster with DCJIS, and then DCJIS or maybe one of these new firearm control boards, gotta love that name, is responsible for sending out the completed application. Geez, guys, I wonder how long that's going to take.
So likely another delay in the process.
Of course, right? Let's start being efficient rather than inefficient. This state loves inefficiency. We're already seeing license delays upwards of over a year in some places. Lowell, we get emails and calls all the time from Lowell residents, right? This is just going to further tax the system, and it's not going to make anybody safer. It's certainly not going to reduce any potential firearms accidents or pepper spray accidents for that matter. Next on the list, looks like it requires the state police to produce and distribute public service announcements to encourage and educate the general public about safe storage and transportation of firearms and the importance of firearm safety education and training, including information on places and classes that a person may attend to obtain firearm safety and education. And I'm chuckling here, literally, because this was language already passed. Gold created the aforementioned statement, and it became law in 2014, but it was never done. Never done.
This has been around for a decade, and like most of the things in this bill, there was never any funding put towards it, so it just never happened.
Literally. And there's still no funding put towards it.
Yeah, I mean, they certainly still collect the licensing fees.
Yeah, right. No problem there.
Right? Of course they do. Looks like the state shall develop material that will be shared by instructors during classes to include the following: harm reduction, suicide prevention through safe practice by firearms owners to reduce access to lethal means. That stuff already exists. Prevalence of suicide by firearms compared to other forms of firearms violence, demographic trends, the risk of injury and suicide that may be associated with household firearms. Is that a new category of gun I'm not familiar with? Including the rate of survival for suicide attempts by firearm compared to other means of attempted suicide, best practices for identifying and reducing the risk of suicide involving household firearms, available resources to learn more about safe practices and suicide prevention, and other information as mandated by the state. So some of this stuff already exists. It's just kind of difficult to find. I can tell you, kudos again to Kristen Ryan. I just can't say enough good things about her. She has really worked well to get information all in one place. So right now, the state police has a page on mass.gov that's dedicated to firearms instructors. So they're going to have to make more stuff, and I believe all this stuff is going to be put probably on that page.
Wow.
So that's where we are with the training. There are a lot of unanswered questions, and I know that there is a timeline for the colonel of the state police to develop and meet all of these requirements. I just don't, off the top of my head, know what that timeline is.
Well, it's difficult to sort out with the bill because, there's a lot of ambiguity. There's a lot of unclear language. It's not clear who's funding what and in what time frame. And I think it puts an awful burden of responsibility on instructors right now
Sure.
who may have, they might have a class scheduled next week and go, is the class that I'm teaching
What the hell am I supposed to do?
going to be valid? Am I charging students the correct money? Am I teaching the correct thing? Do I risk getting in trouble by not teaching, this new set of information? Because a lot of this stuff comes with criminal punishments if you don't follow along, unless I misread the bill.
Right, and I'm still trying to grasp these criminal and civil liabilities for instructors. I tell you guys, I've gotten a lot of calls and emails over the past 48 hours. John, should we stop teaching home firearm safety?
Wow.
John, should we stop teaching people less than 21? John, should we put up at least a temporary hold on our junior small bore activities? And the answer is no, 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 no. Keep doing that. We have to remember today, July 20th, it is the 20th, correct?
Yeah.
Nothing has changed. Governor has not signed the bill, and we're still trying to get accurate answers as to when various sections of the bill become law. So I know that the goal staffs were going to be, late nights and early mornings. That's what our membership expects and deserves, and we'll get these answers. And I know that Jim Wallace is spoke brilliantly on the issue. We're working with counsel. What's right for court actions?
Well, it does sound like one of the intended effects of the bill that is becoming apparent with the communications with members is a chilling effect on the entire firearm system process, all the way from training to carrying to everything in between.
They want to make it difficult.
Ultimately, they don't want any guns in Massachusetts unless carried by those that are protecting them. And that's it. We know that. We've said it for years, guys. I hold you in super high regard. You two are some of the most brilliant people that I know regarding Second Amendment issues. And it's not about safety, keeping people safe and reducing criminal activities. This is citizen disarmament, clear and simple. Massachusetts politicians do not want the mere citizens to have the ability to protect themselves from the criminal element.
Well, as many people say, the only purpose for a gun registry is for the government to come and take them. And as we see in this bill, there's not even thinly veiled language anymore. There's absolutely 100% a gun registry called for in this bill.
Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. And I haven't talked with Jim and staff on this, but what's your take? I mean, is that going to fly under Bruin? I just I reread Bruin and the Rahimi decision. What is allowed? But hey, court action takes a lot of time, a lot of money, and we know that our first federal district court is no help to the Constitution. So I pray for us. I really do. I pray that cooler heads prevail. And I worry about those citizens that are trying to exercise their Second Amendment civil rights. I worry about the individual that suffered domestic abuse, and we know damn well that little piece of paper doesn't keep anybody safe. And now we've got somebody that needs a gun to protect themselves and their little children, and they're not going to be able to get it, at least not get it in time. It's terrible. I'm really disgusted in the behavior of so many of our legislators.
And I think you talked about it a little bit earlier, but just in case that I missed it, you speak very often to law enforcement. You help train law enforcement and game officers and fish and wildlife about the laws and regulations of firearms. In your conversations with them now, do people seem to be like, what is the general tone and tenor of people as they're looking at this bill? Because, of course, the proponents in the State House tried to paint it out as this has broad scale support in law enforcement. And Garrett and I were talking earlier, just between ourselves, that I would really like to see whether or not the votes that they claim happened actually happened.
Yeah, Cynthia Cream, she claimed broadly, right out loud, that the Mass Chiefs voted to approve this or endorse this bill. And I'm questioning whether or not that's true, but
I was thinking about that the other day. I haven't had the opportunity to talk with friends of mine that are chiefs of police, right? I haven't had the opportunity to talk with my friends in law enforcement that are upper echelon in their departments. We know, talking with Vin Alphonse from when the Senate bill was originally released, no Massachusetts police chiefs other than the executive board of MassCopa ever reviewed that bill. So to think that 351 chiefs of police reviewed this bill and all gave the thumbs up, absolutely not. There's no way. There wasn't enough time. So once again, the executive board of Mass Chiefs of Police should be ashamed of supporting this bill. We know damn well that the majority of Massachusetts police chiefs would never support such a thing. They don't have the time for this. They don't have the money to support their requirements. Folks, they've got to maintain a massive amount of paperwork now because of this bill on every LTC and FID card holder in their jurisdiction. They didn't vote for this. So, as an aside, literally this Wednesday, I have a class for Massachusetts environmental police officers, a small class. And the question that I have is, do I call their training officer and say, listen, do we suspend everything for another couple of weeks, give Gold time to assemble a new mass gun law for citizens, or do we teach them gun law that's about to change? And I don't know. I don't know.
That's a fair question.
Well, I think it would be a fair assumption that, Gun Owners Action League, the folks on the staff, I mean, I was there on Thursday, just trying to help sort through all the craziness. I would say if in that time frame, that core group of people, are still trying to understand and sort out what's happening here, like with the amount of questions that we have, and they're genuine questions, they're not flippant questions, they're not sarcastic questions, they're very genuine questions. If there's not enough time for the people who live and breathe this stuff to sort it out, I can't imagine how anybody could make the argument that the law enforcement agencies had time to review it and understood it. The legislators had time to review and understand it. It seems very much that this was designed and executed in such a way as to hide the information in this as long as possible until the very last minute, and then sneak it through before anybody had an idea of what the impact of this legislation would be.
I think anybody that disagrees with you is ignorant or has some negative reasons to believe such a thing. The fact of the matter is nobody had time. I shouldn't say nobody. We know a core group of folks had time to review this, but the general body of the State House, they didn't have time to review this. This was 111 pages, right? They're not familiar with Massachusetts gun law. Law enforcement isn't familiar with Massachusetts gun law. Goal, the staff, we're familiar because that's our one thing. That's the one thing that we get to spend all our time on. And Jeff, you were there. We were comparing the current law with the new bill, right? Having to go line by line by line. This is a tedious effort in order to do this. So shame on anybody that had a modicum of integrity up there. Democrat or Republican should have absolutely said, and many of them did. I don't want to paint a broad brush here, but we should have seen a number of Democrats, both in the House and the Senate, say no. Absolutely not. We need time to review this. We owe this to our constituents, and only a small number did. I know all of the Republican caucus voted no to this, and just a handful of Democrats, the Democrats with integrity. I don't care how you feel about our Second Amendment issues or civil rights. You absolutely had the moral obligation to say, we need time to review this.
Absolutely.
And that wasn't done.
Well, John, I very much appreciate your time and taking some time out of your Saturday evening after working all day. Just a tremendous volume of work. Greatly appreciate everything you do. True friend of the Second Amendment. And I don't want to take up too much of your time. I'm sure you're well overdue for a cocktail and some dinner and to put your feet up. It's a well-deserved break.
John, can't thank you enough.
Guys, keep doing what you're doing, and God bless you. And may somebody look down over the people that are trying to be lawful and exercise their Second Amendment civil rights, because we need all the help we can get.
Amen. Amen.
All right. You guys have a great night.
You too, John. Thank you again. All right, so there he is, John Green, Director of Education and Training for Gun Owners Action League. Taking time out of his schedule. He just did the first half of an instructor training class.
Oh yeah, he was up early this morning, teaching all day
long.
And when we were originally sending emails, he's like, "Well, I can do it on my lunch break if he can just get set up the time." And it's like, no.
It's like
if you can jump on later, and
it speaks to the passion that people have. They're like people like John. He's like, I taught all day, and instead of saying hell with you, I'm having a smoke and a cocktail or whatever it is, he's going to take time out of his schedule to come on with us and help get the word out again on this trash.
Yeah. And to think that the legislators, I mean, if they had asked, John would have been there to
absolutely
to help guide and have real input on the conversation. But of course they didn't. Of course they don't.
No, they don't care. They don't care.
Well, and like you said, it's absolutely shameful in the way that some of the legislators comport themselves. They're people that are drunk on their own ego and power.
Yeah.
And it's a shame. It's a shame that things have to be that, or not that they have to be that way, that they are that way right now.
Yeah. So the message is, from my perspective, people, if you're listening to this, you have got to stay involved. Stay involved. Stay tuned to us. Go to goal.org. Focus on the paperwork that's there. The issues, or excuse me, the documents that are on goal.org are being continually updated. So please get them from there. Please stay involved. Please stay in touch with your legislators. I mean, this particular thing is a done deal from a legislative perspective. It's not gone to the governor yet, but we are preparing for the fight ahead, and we're going to need the support of everybody in order to make a difference here. Everybody's going to have to get involved.
And the next time it rolls around, remember that you speak the loudest at the ballot box, and where it starts is your local elections, everything from your school boards to your town councilmen. You have to start paying attention to those things, because that's the farm system that feeds the machine at the top.
Legislature. Yeah, exactly.
So if you do want to see things change, and you want to see them change from in the broader scope, it's a long-term outlook of being involved, not just in the short term when tensions are high or when passions are raised, but in the long term to really keep focused on these things and understand who's in the State House representing or not representing your interests.
There you go. Exactly. So stay tuned. Goal.org, Goal Podcast. Let's gird up for the fight ahead. I guess that's going to do it for this special episode. Thanks for listening in. Be sure to subscribe to the Goal Podcast. Check us out, facebook.com/Goal Podcast MA. YouTube is at the Goal Podcast, or on Twitter at Goal Update.
To join Goal, which you should. If you're not, time to sign up. Visit goal.org. Click the Join Renew button at the top of the homepage.
If you do have a topic you think we should cover, if there's something going on in your club or town, or if you have a question for our mailbag, shoot us an email. Or if you have anything to discuss, shoot us an email at goalpodcast@goal.org.
The Goal Podcast is a production of Gun Owners Action League of Massachusetts. The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guests and do not necessarily reflect those of Goal, its staff, or affiliates.